Shabbat shalom, peace and love, Shabbat shalom. I'm going to be reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 41 to 44. Bear with me as I try to get through this, y'all willing. I'm sorry. 1 second. The book of Genesis, chapter 41, verse 1. And it came to be at the end of 2 years' time that Pharaoh had a dream and saw him standing by the river. Verse 2, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, beautiful looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Verse 3, then saw 7 other cows coming up after them out of the river, ugly and lean of flesh, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. Verse 4, and the ugly and the lean of the flesh cows ate up the 7 beautiful looking and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke. Verse 5, and he slept and dreamed a second time and saw 7 heads of grain coming up on one stalk, plump and good. Verse 6, and saw 7 lean heads scorched by the east wind coming up after them. Verse 7, and the 7 lean heads swallowed the 7 plump and complete heads. Then Pharaoh woke and saw it was a dream. Verse 8, and it came to be in the morning that his spirit was moved, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Mizraim, Egypt, and all its wise men. And Pharaoh related to them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret who can interpret them for Pharaoh. So no one could interpret these dreams for Pharaoh, but there was a guy. Verse 9. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my crimes this day. Verse 10, when Pharaoh was rough with his servants and put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chef, the chief baker. Verse 11, each one of us dreamed a dream in one night. He and I, each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Verse 12, and there was with us a Hebrew youth, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we related to him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. Verse 13, and it came to be as he interpreted for us, so it came to be. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Verse 14, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon, and he shaved and changed his garments and came to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh ended up calling for Joseph. Finally, the cupbearer remembered Joseph, like Joseph asked him to so long ago. It took so long. Like obviously, this was like over probably some years. And he finally remembered who told him he was going to get out. So he finally remembered Joseph, and now Joseph has to shave according to I guess the look of the Pharaoh. So he might have needed to clean up anyway because he been in there for a bit. But we see that that was a thing. and he shaved and changed his garments and came to Pharaoh. So we had a shaved Joseph. Verse 15. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. Now I myself have heard it said of you that you understand a dream to interpret it. Verse 16. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Let Elohim answer Pharaoh with peace. So here is Joseph giving the glory to Joseph, to the Most High. Like, it's not in me, let Elohim answer. Like, and that's important. We have to remove ourselves when it comes to our gifts. We have to remove ourselves when it comes to our visions, our dreams, our interpretations, our insight, our foresight. We have to remove ourselves and give all glory to the Most High, because that's where it comes from. It's a spiritual gift. It's not something that comes with the flesh. It's not a fleshly gift. It's a spiritual gift. Gift of insight, foresight, interpretation, dream, and vision, all of that is ruaku. All of that is spiritual. That doesn't come from the flesh, this meat, this meat suit. That comes from the ruach, the spirit, the supreme spirit. So this is why Joseph gave the glory, and the credit to the Most High, and I like that he did that. And he said, and Joseph, because Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have a dream, I have dreamed the dream, and there is no one to interpret it. Now I myself have heard it said of you that you understand a dream to interpret it. And the proper response from Joseph was, and Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. It is not in me. Let Elohim answer Pharaoh with peace. That was the proper response. Respectfully. Verse 17. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, in my dream I stood on the bank of the river. Verse 18, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, beautiful looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Verse 19, then saw 7 other cows coming up after them, poor and very ugly and lean of flesh, such ugliness as I have never seen in all the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 20, and the lean of the flesh and the ugly cows ate up the first 7, and the fat cows. Verse 21, yet when they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they have eaten them, for they were as ugly as the beginning. Then I awoke. Verse 22, also I looked in my dream and saw 7 heads coming up on one stalk, complete and good. Verse 23, then saw 7 heads withered, lean, scorched by the east wind, coming up after them. Verse 24, and the lean heads swallowed the 7 good heads, and I spoke to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. Verse 25, and Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Verse 26, the 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. It is one dream. Verse 27, and the 7 lean and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty heads scorched by the east wind are 7 years of scarcity of food. Verse 28, this is the word which I spoke to Pharaoh. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Verse 29, see, 7 years of great plenty are coming in all the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 30, but after them 7 years of scarcity of food shall arise, and all the plenty be forgotten in the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt, and the scarcity of food shall destroy the land. Verse 31, and the plenty shall not be remembered in the land because of the scarcity of food following, for it is very severe. Verse 32. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice because the word is established by Elohim, and Elohim is hastening to do it. So that's important to remember too. When the dream is repeated twice, it's because the Most High is hastening to do this like really soon. When the dream is repeated twice. So that's something to, that's something to, note, to keep noted. And I don't know why I don't have it noted, but I'm about to note it now because I remember hearing that, and this is where, you know, I heard it from, is here in the book of Genesis, chapter 41. Repeated dreams means in haste, like it's going to be happening soon. Repeated dreams mean that it's going to happen soon. Like the Most High is hastening to do this. Verse 33. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 34. Let Pharaoh do this and let him appoint overseers over the land to take up 1/5 of the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt, in the 7 years of plenty. Verse 35. And let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the land of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Verse 36. And the food shall be for a store for the land for the 7 years of scarcity of food, which shall be in the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt, and do not let the land be cut off by the scarcity of food. Verse 37. And the word was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all who and all his servants. Verse 38. And Pharaoh said to his servants, could we find another like him, a man in whom the spirit of Elohim? Verse 39. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since Elohim has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. No one as discerning and wise as Joseph was. Verse 40. Be over my house, you yourself, and at your mouth all my people shall kiss only in the throne I am greater than you. So he set Joseph up to be, in position of authority, to be an overseer, like something like a governor over the people. Verse 41. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, set have set you. Verse 41. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 42. And Pharaoh took his seal ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. And he dressed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. So Joseph was laced. He laced Joseph up. Look, Joseph had a gold chain. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Joseph was Joseph was dripped out. Pharaoh dripped him out. Put some fine linen on him, and a gold chain. Put that and put that ring. Put that seal ring on his finger. So yeah, he was in position of authority. He was the yeah he was the second in charge of all of Egypt after his brothers then sold him off. You know, yeah, that's what's up. First, for he went through a lot, man. His brother sold him off to. the Ishmaelites sold him to Egypt, and he had to. He was, he went through a misunderstanding with the first ruler and the ruler's wife, and ended up in prison over it. And now look at him, on top. The Most High move when he want to move, and he move for those, you know, in his timing. Those he has plans for, he move in his timing. He move for them in his timing. And he had, verse 43, and he had him ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried out before him, bow the knee, and he set him over all the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. 40, verse 44. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without a word from you, let no man lift his hand or foot in all the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 45. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath Paneah, and he gave him as a wife Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Mizraim, out all the land of Egypt. So Pharaoh laced him with a wife, man. So this was obviously an Egyptian wife. So Joseph had kids with an Egyptian wife. Let's keep this in context. Keep this in mind. Joseph had children with an Egyptian wife. Keep this in context. Keep this in mind. This is noted. So the offspring will come from this Egyptian wife that was appointed to Joseph. Verse 46. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 47. And in the 7 years of plenty, the ground brought forth generously. Verse 48. And he gathered all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Mizraim, and laid up the food in the cities. He laid up in every city the food of the fields which surrounded them. Verse 49. Thus Joseph gathered very much grain, as the sand of the sea, until he ceased counting, for it was without number. Verse 50. And to Joseph were born two sons before the years of scarcity of food came, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore to him. Verse 51. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Menashe, for Elohim has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. So notice this is a consistent tradition to, when a child is named in the scripture, the reason for them naming follows the name. The reason for them naming this child follows the name, like the next verse, or within the same verse. Verse 52. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for Elohim has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Verse 53. And the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Mizraim came to an end. Verse 54. And the 7 years of scarcity of food began to come, as Joseph has said. And the scarcity of food was in all the lands, but in all the land of Mizraim there was bread. Verse 55. But when all the land of Mizraim hungered, and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, Pharaoh said to all the Mizrahites, go to Joseph, do whatever he says to to do whatever he says to you. Verse 56. Since the scarcity of food was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Mizrahites, and the scarcity of food was served severe in the land of Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 57. And all the earth came to Joseph in Mizraim to buy grain because the scarcity of food was severe in all the earth. So this was in all the earth. There was a scarcity of food in all the earth, and Joseph was the plug. Joseph was the plug. He was the only one with food in all the earth. Ain't that something? So all of earth had to make its way to Joseph to get this to get this food because there was a drought everywhere. And this was purposely, I believe this was purposely, done by the Most High in order to big up his name, in order for us to be speaking about this to this day. Basically to, to build up the brand of his name is always for the name's sake. Is always for the name's sake of the Most High. Is always for the namesake of Yahuwah. So, everything that was done is being done in Genesis is to build the brand, build the name. More, I don't want, for lack of a better word, calling it a brand, but build the name of Yahuwah. You know what I mean? Build up the name of the Most High. Chapter 42, verse 1. And when Jacob saw that there was grain in Mizraim, Jacob said to his sons, why do you look at each other? Like, what are y'all looking around looking silly? Like go find some food. Verse 42. I'm sorry, verse 2. Chapter 42. Verse 2. And he said, see, I have heard that there is grain in Mizraim, which is Egypt. Go down to that place, and buy for us there, and let us live and not be unalive. Verse 3. And Joseph 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Mizraim, which is Egypt. Verse 4. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, lest some harm come to him. So Jacob wasn't chancing sending off his other youngest son. He felt like he already lost Joseph. He wasn't losing Benjamin. Verse 5. And the sons of Israel went to buy grain among those who journeyed, for the scarcity of food was in the land of Canaan. Verse 6. And Joseph was the governor over the land. He was the one who was sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. Verse 7. And Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke to them harshly and said to them, where do you come from? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. Verse 8. So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. They did not recognize him because he might have been shaved and, what I mean, bald, looking like however an Egyptian would look at that time, you know, and obviously that involved shaving. But like the whole idea of shaving wasn't a Hebrew thing. That wasn't a Hebrew thing, to shave. So this is obviously why his brothers didn't recognize him. He was older now, and he was also shaved. So you know what I mean? Yeah. Verse 9. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them, and said to them, you are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. Verse 10. And they said to him, no, my master, but Your servants have come to buy food. Verse 11, we are all one man's son. We are trustworthy. Your servants are not spies. Verse 12, but he said to them, no, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land. Verse 13, and they said, your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And see, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more. Verse 14, and Joseph said to them, it is as I spoke to you, saying, you are spies. Verse 15, by this you shall be proven. By the life of Pharaoh, you do not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Verse 16, send one of you and let him bring your brother while you are kept in prison. So let your words be proven to see whether there is any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, you are spies. Verse 17, and he put them all together in prison for 3 days. Verse 18, now Joseph said to them the third day, do this and live, for I fear Elohim. So he letting it be known to them that he fears Elohim, that he fears Yah. He let it be known, that's that was strong. That should have been that should have been a that should have been a clue to them for him to say that, because I don't think no Egyptian is gonna was at the time would have said that, because the Egyptians, they were on a different belief system. So for him to say, yeah, I fear Elohim, that should have been a clue to that should have been a tell sign to them, but you know, who knows? Verse 19, if you are trustworthy, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house, and you go bring grain for the scarcity of food of your houses. Verse 20, and bring your youngest brother to me, and let your words be confirmed, and you do not die. And so they did. Verse 21, and they said to each other, truly we are guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the distress of his life when he pleaded with us, yet we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us. Verse 22, and Reuben answered them, saying, did I not speak to you, saying, do not sin against the boy? And you would not listen? And see, his blood is now required of us. So now the big brothers, reminding them like, man, I told y'all was wilding. Y'all was wilding for this, man. Now look, it's coming back. It's coming back on us. What goes around is coming around. Look now look where we into. All because y'all done sold our brother. I tried to tell y'all. This is basically what Reuben the oldest is telling them. Verse 23, and they did not know that Joseph understood them, for he spoke to them through an interpreter. So yeah, they must have been speaking in Hebrew or Aramaic, because you know they it was some basically in a language different from the Egyptian. It had to be, because they were, just to give it context, they were under the impression that Joseph was an Egyptian, so they were just speaking, freely, not knowing that Joseph wasn't an Egyptian. Joseph was actually their brother, and Joseph can understand Hebrew or Aramaic, whatever language they were speaking that was not Egyptian. So yeah, just just to add, just to give bring context to that. This was obviously yeah, a different language, most likely Hebrew. Verse 24, and he turned himself away from them and wept, but came back to them and spoke to them, and he took Shimon from them and bound him before their eyes. verse 25. I wonder why he did Shimon like that, because Shimon must have been leading the pack in the whole idea of selling them off. So he like, yeah, get over here, man. It was your whole idea. Verse 25. And Joseph commanded, and they filled their sacks with grain, also to put back every man's silver to his sack, and to give them food for the journey. And thus it was done for them. Verse 26. So they loaded their donkeys with the grain and went from there. Verse 27. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his silver, for there it was in the mouth of his sack. Verse 28. And he said to his brothers, my silver has been returned, and there it is in my sack. And their hearts sank, and they were afraid, saying to each other, what is this that Elohim has done to us? Verse 29. So they came to Jacob, their father, in the land of Canaan, and reported to him all that befell them, saying, verse 30. The master of the land, spoke to us harshly, and took us for spies of the land. Verse 31. But we said to him, we are trustworthy, we are not spies. Verse 32. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is today with our father in the land of Canaan. Verse 33. And the master of the land, said to us, by this I know that you are trustworthy. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for scarcity of food of your households, and go. Verse 34. And bring your youngest brother to me, then I know that you are not spies, but that you are trustworthy. I give your brother to you, and you move about in the land. Verse 35. And it came to be, as they emptied their sacks, that look, the bundle of each man's silver was in his sack. And when they and their father saw the bundles of silver, they were afraid. Verse 36. And Jacob, their father, said to them, you have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, and Shimon is no more. And you would take Benjamin? All this against me? All this is against me? Verse 37. So Reuben spoke to his father, saying, take the lives of my two sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I myself bring him back to you. Verse 38. But he said, my son is not going down with you, for his brother is unalive, and he is left alone. If any harm should come to him along the way in which you go, then you would bring down my gray hair with sorrow to the Sheol, which is the grave. Yeah, so yeah, Jacob wasn't taking any chances with Benjamin. He like, man, what is going on? They all confused. The silver is in their bag. They thought they used it to purchase. Now they feel like, man, Joseph is going to add another accusation against them, like like they're thieves, like they took food without paying. It's a mess. But this Joseph is behind the scenes pulling the strings. It was, he's pretty much getting back to their brothers, playing mind games with them. They don't know this, but yeah, this is what's going on. Based because of what they did to him, he's getting back to him. Chapter 43, verse 1. But the scarcity of food was severe in the land. Verse 2. And it came to be, when they had eaten up the grain which they had brought from Misraim, which is Egypt, that their father said to them, go back, buy us a little food. Verse 3. But Yehuda spoke to him, saying, the man vehemently warned us, saying, you do not see my face unless your brother is with you. Verse 4. If you let our brother go with us, we go down and buy you food. Verse 5. But if you do not let him go, we do not go down, because the man said to us, you do not see my face unless your brother is with you. Verse 6. And Yisrael said, why did you do evil to me? to inform the man that you still had another brother. So it's the scriptures is acknowledge him as Yisrael instead of Jacob. I like how they do that because his name is Yisrael. It was the Most High changed his name to Yisrael, so that's the name of Jacob. So this is like he's saying, and Yisrael said, "Why did you do evil to me to inform that man that you still had another brother?" Like he didn't need to know that. Why did y'all like? I guess they wanted to be as transparent as they could possibly be to prove that they weren't spies and they were who they say they were. I get it. In the moment, you wanted someone to believe you. You don't want to add any more lies, to what they already believe is a lie. So verse 7, and they said, the man kept asking about us and our relatives, saying, is your father still alive? Have you another brother? And we informed him according to these words. How could we know that he would say, bring your brother down? They like, man, how would we know he was going to say that? Like, we didn't know that. You know what I mean? We just try and be, transparent. Verse 8, and Yehuda said to Yisrael his father, send the boy with me, and let us arise and go and live and not die. Both we and you and also our little ones. Verse 9, I myself shall stand guarantee for him. From my hand you are to require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. Verse 10, for if we had not delayed, truly by now we could have returned this second time. Verse 11, and their father Yisrael said to them, if so, then do this. Take some of the best fruit of the land in your vessel and bring a present down for the man, a little balm and a little honey, spices, myrrh, nuts, and almonds. Almonds. Yeah, this is what it reads, at least in English. There were almonds. Verse 12, and take double silver in your hand, and take back in your hand the silver that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. It could have been a mistake. Verse 13, and take your brother and arise, go back to the man. Verse 14, and El Shaddai give to you compassion before the man, so that he shall release your brother, he should release your other brother and Benjamin. So we have Israel, we have Israel, we have Jacob acknowledging the Most High as El Shaddai. At least that's what it reads. Verse 15, and the men took that present in Benjamin, and they took double the amount of silver in their hand, and arose and went down to Mizraim, and stood before Joseph. Verse 16, and Joseph saw Benjamin with them, and said to the one over his house, bring the men home, and make a great slaughter, and prepare, for these men are to eat with me at noon. Verse 17, and the man did as Joseph said, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. So Joseph had his own spot. We see that Joseph had his own spot. Verse 18, and the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And he said, it is because of the silver which was put back in our sacks the first time that we are brought in, to throw himself upon us and fall upon us, to take us as slaves, our donkeys too. Verse 19, so they came near to the man over the house of Joseph and spoke to him at the door of the house. Verse 20, and said, O my master, we indeed came down the first time to buy food. Verse verse 21, but it came to be when we came to the lodging place that we spoke that we opened our sacks and saw each man silver in the mouth of his sack, our silver in its weight, and we have brought it back in our hand. Verse 22, and we have brought down other silver in our hands to buy food. We do not know who put our silver in our sacks. Verse 23, but he said, peace be with you. Do not be afraid. Your Elohim and the Elohim of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. Your silver had come to me, and he brought Shimon out to them. So he basically gave him shalom, like told him to calm down. Shalom, it's all good, nothing to worry. I did that, and here's our brother. Verse 24, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their donkeys fodder. Verse 25, and they made the present ready for Joseph coming at noon, for they heard that they were to eat there. Verse 26, and then Joseph came home. They brought him the present which was in their hand into the house and bowed down before him to the earth. That was fulfilling the dream that Joseph had. Verse 27, and he asked them about their welfare and said, is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? Verse 28, and they said, your servant our father is in the your servant our father is in good health. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads down and did obeisance. Obeisance. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. It's like, a form of respect and like, in bowing yourself. Verse 29, and he lifted his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, is this your younger brother of whom you spoke to me? And he said, Elohim show favor to you, my son. Verse 30, and Joseph hurried, for his emotions were deeply moved towards his brother, and he looked for a place to weep, and went into his room and wept there. Verse 31, then he washed his face and came out and controlled himself and said, serve the food. Verse 32, and they set him a place by himself and them by themselves, and the Mizrahites who ate with him by themselves, for the Mizrahites could not eat food with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Mizrahites. So this was an abomination to the Mizrahites, to the Egyptians, to eat food with the Hebrews. This was an abomination. This was an abomination to the Mizrahites, to the Egyptians, to eat food with the Hebrews. This is documented in the scriptures. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 43, verse 32. So, like, yeah, they were at separate settings. I wonder why. I would like to know the details of that. That's interesting, you know. Verse 33, and they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at each other in astonishment. Verse 34, and he took portions to them from before him, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they feasted and they drank with them. So yeah, they noticed how they were like seated in the order of birthright. And the brother's like, man, how would he know that? Like, you know, how would he know that we were, we're in this order of birthright? And he gave his actual younger brother Benjamin more food than the rest of them, because Benjamin never did anything to him. That was his brother from mother. You know, they actually had the same mother, And not only that, Benjamin was the youngest of them all and had no part in selling him off. You know what I mean? Yeah, he took no part in that. So he was treated better. Chapter 44. And he commanded the one over his house, saying, fill the men's sack with food, as they are able to bear, and put each man silver in the mouth of his sack. Verse 2. And notice he's filling up sack like one has to assume that this is fruits, vegetables, things you actually put into a sack. This isn't wet, bloody um meat. You know what I mean? I don't think it is. And it's like with meat, you have to eat it fresh. At the time, nowadays this is what we you see it in the freezer. People, there wasn't there wasn't no freezers being spoken of or documented in these writings. So whenever meat was eaten, it was fresh. It was fresh. It was fresh and it was freshly cooked. So this is not meat that was being put in the bag. This was fruits, vegetable, herbs, all that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like grain, mostly grain. Mostly grain, whatever you want to think of as of grain, as being grain. You know what I mean? This is what they was coming for. Verse 2, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and the silver for his grain. And he did according to the word of Joseph which he spoke. Verse 3, as soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. Verse 4, and when they had gone out of the city, not having gone far, Joseph said to the one over to his house, rise up, follow the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, why have you repaid evil for good? Verse 5, is this not the one from which my masters drank, and with which he indeed divines? You have done evil in what you have done. I don't know what that word divine. That's interesting that that word divine. What was that? What did that word mean? What did that cup have to do with divine? I hope not divination. You know what I mean? That's an interesting uh choice of word speaking about a cup. Verse 6, so he overtook them and spoke these words to them. Verse 7, and they said to him, why does my master say these words? Far be it from us that your servant should do according to this word. Verse 8, see, we brought back to you from the land of the land of Canaan, the silver which we found in the mouth of our sacks. How then should we steal silver or gold from your master's house? Verse 9, with whomever of your servants it is found, he should he should die, and we shall become my master's slave as well. Forgive me for like whenever you see me come across the word DIE, I kind of brush over it because this platform is sensitive to the wording, and it's an algorithm that misunderstands how I'm using a word, and it just hears the word and it'll send some restriction. I, I'm I ain't got time for all that, so you may hear me brush over the word whenever I come across DIE. He shall DIE, and we shall become my master's slaves as well. Verse 10, and he said, now also let it be according to your words. He with whom it is found become my slave, and you are innocent. Verse 11, and they hurried each man let down his sack to the ground, and each opened his sack. Verse 12, and he searched with the oldest first, with the youngest last, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Verse 13, and they tore their garments, and each man loaded his donkey and went back to the city. Verse 14, and Yehuda and his brothers came to Joseph's house, and he was still there. And they fell before him on the ground. Verse 15, and Joseph said to them, what deed is this you have done? Did you not know that a man like me indeed divines? So here we go with this divine thing again. Like this divine divination. What are we talking about, Joseph? Like that must have been a Egyptian uh trait to divine, to divinate, to in divination, you know. That must have been an Egyptian thing because it surely is not permissible in the Hebrew, you know, the instructions of the God of the you know, uh Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Verse 16, and Yehuda said, what do we say to my master? What do we speak? Or how do we clear ourselves? Elohim has found out the crookedness of our servants. See, we are my master's slave, both we and he also with whom the cup was found. Verse 17, but he said, far be it from me to do this. The man in whose hand the cup was found, he becomes my slave, and you go up in peace to your father. Verse 18, Yehuda came near to him and said, O my master, please let your servant speak a word in my master's hearing, and do not let your displeasure burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh. Verse 19, my master asked his servants, saying, have you a father or a brother? Verse 20, and we said to my master, we have a father, an old man, and a young child of his old age, and his brother is unalive, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. Verse 21, and you said to your servant, bring him down to me and let me set my eyes on him. Verse 22, and we said to my master, the boy is not able to leave his father, for if he leaves his father shall die. Verse 23, but you said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you do not see my face again. Verse 24, and it came to be when we went up to your servant, my father, that we told him the words of my master. Verse 25, and our father said, go back and buy us a little food. Verse 26, but we said, we are not able to go down if our youngest brother is with us. We are not able to go down. If our youngest brother is with us, then we should go down. For we are not able to see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Verse 27. Then your servant my father said to us, you know that my wife bore me two sons. Verse 28. And the one went out from me, and I said, truly, he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. Verse 29. And if you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you shall bring down my gray hair with evil to the Sheol, which is the grave. Verse 30. And now, if I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, says his own life is bound up in his life. Verse 31. Then it shall be when he sees that the boy is not with us, that he shall die. So your servant shall bring down the gray hair of your servant, our father, with evil to the Sheol, to the grave. Verse 32, for your servant went guarantee for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall be a sinner before my father forever. Verse 33. And now, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a slave to my master, and let the boy go up with his brothers. Verse 34. For how do I go up to my father if the boy is not with me? Lest I see the evil that will come upon my father. So, yeah, beautifully, pleaded by, Yehuda, you know, Judah, that, like, listen, man, this was really going on. Like, basically, cut out all this. We can't leave without our younger brother. If we leave without our younger brother, it's gonna it's gonna bring our it's gonna bring our father down in an instant. He's gonna die. He's gonna drop. He's gonna drop unalive in front of us instantly. If we come back without our youngest brother, his youngest child, when he already lost his other youngest child. And he basically let Joseph know, like, man, we can't, man, we got to figure something else out. You could keep me, hold me, but we got he got to go back. He got to go back. And that completes the reading of Genesis for this week. We're gonna pick back up next week in 45. But I'm gonna close out this live and I'm gonna come back on and pick up in the book of Isaiah. Pick up in the book of Isaiah, continue to the Sabbath readings in the book of Isaiah. So, but I'm gonna close this one out because this was for Genesis only. So if you're able to stick around, if you're here, y'all willing, I'm logging back in, but I'm gonna bless us out according to the blessing that was given to Moshe in the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verse 23 to 26. To bless the people, receive your blessing. May Yahuwah bless you, barak you, and guard you. May Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. May Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Peace, love, Shabbat Shalom. Until this next live, Shabbat Shalom, peace, and love.